Hi everybody, welcome to SLG Book Club Review. Today I'm going to be covering the key takeaways that I got from Deep Work by Cal Newport. I think it's a fantastic book on how to stay focused and then how to improve your quality of life from that focus. So without further ado, let me just get right into it. Why does this book matter? Starting off with, when author says deep work, he means that this is the ability to work on a task undistracted, as opposed to being distracted, doing multitasking, which is shallow work. And he says, well, deep work is very important because whatever we do, our work directly impacts the quality of our life, how productive we are, how much money we make, are we getting promotions, are we fulfilled, are we motivated, how much we advance in our career, etc. Deep work produces increasingly higher value, but it's increasingly rare. And we'll talk about why it does that, because I think that in a world where we have to check our phones 20 times during an hour, how much productivity can we really deliver, right? With that kind of distraction, how much can we really do? So if we were to just think about the time we have and the things we need to accomplish within that time frame, whether it's acquiring skills, doing tasks, high value tasks, low value tasks, it really, you've got to really think about that. I need to make the most out of the time I have. And isn't that true for both personal life and professional life? You got to make the most out of what you have, instead of kind of being in this really low performance, um, very sort of I would say uninspiring state of being, where you can be more productive but you're not. You can get more done in life but you're not able to do it. You say no to challenges because staying in a challenge is difficult, because even in regular things you're not able to cross the finish line, so why would you take up something that's even more challenging? But then you become resentful that your life is just a series of unaddressed challenges, and not being able to really feel that fulfillment that I think we all truly deserve. So Cal Newport talks about two things that are critical for, especially for to be able to thrive in the new economy, not just survive in the new economy, but to thrive in the new economy. He says the first thing is the ability to quickly master hard things. So difficult concepts, complex situations, can you digest that information quickly? And number two is the ability to produce at an elite level, but not just in terms of producing something, making sure it's high quality, and it's high quality and it's fast. So what he's saying is that deep work allows you to thrive in a world that is putting a premium on complex things produced quickly at high quality, right? So if somebody wants to just sit back and coast through life, essentially the new economy is going to filter you out. You're not going to be able to kind of elevate yourself, because the rules of the game have changed. The rules of the game are such that much more is required of you in much less time at a higher quality, right? So how can you really tackle that kind of challenge in life? He gives examples of J.K. Rowling and Bill Gates. These are two individuals, both have applied deep work principles to really extract a tremendous amount of value and really impact the world in a different way. J.K. Rowling with her Harry Potter series, and Bill Gates with Windows in Microsoft. So both of them, they would, lock themselves in a hotel room or a garage for extended period of time, so they can really go deeper into their minds and make the connections, and really master certain skills and bring out to the world concepts and ideas that were truly transformative for not just them but everybody else around them as well. So that's why focus is an asset. Attention is an asset, because it's going to create an increasingly higher, exponentially higher value. But in today's world, where our attention spans are shrinking, we have attention span that's less than that of a goldfish, apparently. I've read that somewhere, and there's a reason. I mean, I understand that even though some of the students I taught at university, they couldn't stay focused for 5 seconds. Their eyes were darting, they were looking elsewhere, and because it's just over um, the stimuli that they're getting from their phones, the notifications, social media, has got them, become unable to put the filters on so they can really even engage in a normal, regular conversation, leave alone acquiring skills in coding or design or content development, etc. Anyways, all right. So let's just look at what shallow versus deep work is. Shallow is basically work that requires little concentration, low level of skills, and obviously it provides little value. What does it look like? It looks like basic administrative work, responding to emails, participating in emails, logistical work, and administrative work, not add. So yeah, that's the basic shallow work. Deep work is about having sharp, undistracted, undivided focus and attention. It allows you to develop new skills, like I said, fast, do it fast, skill up fast, and then be able to differentiate yourself from the rest of the pack by providing certain value that really it's hard to replicate. If you're constantly acquiring new skills, tough skills, you're adding value anyways. But then how many can do all of these and then and bring that kind of unique value to the table? You're doing the job of maybe 10 people in a unique way. Just it gets your stock up basically. What kind of work that requires deep work? Look, anything that is around research and designing and programming and writing is a lot of cognitive horsepower that's required. That requires deep work. Even if you're a student trying to do a presentation for your class project, that's going to require you deep work because you really got to internalize the information before you start sharing that externally. So yeah, it's all about thinking low impact versus high impact activities. High impact activities are going to require deep work on your behalf. All right. So one other thing I got from this book was, look, you've got to create a habit system where deep work resides. You've got to think of willpower as a muscle that if you overuse it, you're going to be at the short end of the stick. You're not going to be able to um, constantly draw down upon willpower. If you've consumed it, and then you'll sort of fall apart. Whether it's how you train your mind or your body is the same principle. Um, then there's the attention residue that happens, which is, if you don't have a habit, what you're doing is you're switching between activities and multitasking, and it's going to reduce your performance. But if you have rituals, okay, I'm going to schedule my distractions. I'm only going to be distracted during this time of the day when I'm working on low value activities. But when I'm doing deep work, I'm not going to be distracted. I'm going to do it at a certain time over a certain time span. And I'm going to give you an example in a little bit on how to schedule your day around deep work. And then I'm also going to have my shutdown rituals. I'm going to make sure that I'm not taking deep work right to the end point where I'm just about to go to sleep. I'm going to wrap up my evening. I'm going to get my rest. Rest is very important because deep work is high intensity. It's a lot of focus in a very short amount of time. So you also need to unwind. So you've got to create a habit system that allows you to bring your best mind for the day to the specific tasks and then rest, and then bring it again, and then rest, and then bring it again, and then rest. Um, and yeah, so one takeaway would be, inspiration is not a pure random act, but instead creativity is found in structure and habit systems. I think it's so important that people think, well, this guy is lucky or this guy's a genius, and that's why, they're able to be, outstanding, like Picasso, for instance, right? But there's no accident in being let's just say extraordinary. So there's no accident in being extraordinary. What people do is they have a system which repeats itself and helps you build exponentially. It's like a snowball effect. But you've got to make sure that you bring in your mental training, that deep work, that focus on a daily basis, multiple times during a day, and then stick with that routine. And it's not easy. It's not easy. But what you have to think about is you have to bring consistency to intensity. Once you do, once you are able to marry the two, consistency and intensity, you're unstoppable. There are different types of work styles, right? So in the book, the author talks about the four main types of types of work styles. One is monastic, bimodal, rhythmic, and journalistic. The monastic is that you're unreachable. You're working alone on long-term projects like J.K. Rowling. She would just lock herself in a hotel room, and she's unreachable, and she's creating very high-value content. Bimodal is that you're able to switch between reachable, and not reachable to balance out your obligations. But in that case, you have to have clear goals. So you can kind of be in both states, but you got to be able to clear out you have to be mentally clear on what you're trying to achieve here. So the next one is rhythmic. Set aside daily chunks of time to get things done to accommodate a busy schedule. I think this is more traditional. It's like you got to go to work, you got to pick up the kids from school, you got to go to the gym, whatever the case is. So what you do is you just chunk out time. You can't just lock yourself in a cave or a hotel room and work on something for 6 days straight. So what do? You just create small chunks during the day. That's more commonplace. Journalistic is carry out deep work when there is time to spare based on irregular schedules. I mean, that's a little bit more advanced. So sometimes you're doing deep work in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon, sometimes you're trying to do something and something else comes up and gets you thrown away. Then you try to get back in. You got 30 minutes. You just try to do deep work in that moment. It's kind of difficult to balance that. So for me, what works best is rhythmic. I need to I need to live a life like a normal human being, but I also want to be able to progress in certain areas. Now, I've got a couple of projects that I'll be honest with you, I'm guilty of procrastinating on. I have to deliver deep work to make them happen. So either I'll have to mix it up into a bimodal, kind of work style to get those projects out. I've got several projects done, but they were relatively low value activities. So these couple of projects, they require much more input, much more dedication, no BS, no excuses type approach. So I may have to get out of the rhythmic mode and maybe do a bimodal, or maybe even, who knows, maybe even a monastic stretch, maybe at the end of the project, who knows. Uh, but yeah, I have to apply it to myself as well. So that's why I think this book really resonates with me even at this stage. And yeah, you got to experiment to discover your style. Mine is pretty straightforward. I'm like a typical guy, typical person who's got things to do throughout the day. So that's why I choose rhythmic. Um, Now, what could be your approach, right? Well, how can you plan this out? How can you plan this? Well, first is when you do deep work, you have to have a single goal. I want to get this done. That's it. What is this? I want to write 10 pages of my book. Okay, fine. What does it require? Well, I need to do some research. So I list down the key activities. What are the tools? Well, I have certain reference books. I've got Google. I've got XYZ. Great. What is the timeline? Well, I need to get this done in the next 3 weeks. So I'm going to dedicate 90-minute stretches of deep work to get it done. Okay, fine, excellent. And then I have to think about lead measures, not lag measures. Now, a lag measure is something which is like the result of what you do. A lead measure is what you do. It's the metric that you follow that tells you you're on the right track. So, for instance, if I am, let's say, if I want to finish my book, I'm not saying, okay, I'm going to look at how many chapters I'm done with. I'm going to look at how much research I've conducted, and how much, if I have interviewed anybody. So those would be sort of the lead measures, because I'm only going to be able to produce the book if I've done the interviews and the research. You see what I'm saying? So it's you focus on the stuff that leads to the result, and don't focus on the resulting stuff. Okay. Similarly, if you want to, let's say, lose weight, you don't think about how many kgs or pounds you've lost. You think about, what was your eating routine throughout the day, and did you work out, right? That's what you need to focus on. Because if you do this, the result will be you will lose the weight. Yeah, so plan and then proceed. Now, from an execution standpoint, like I said, there's some other tips that he talks about, or just something to reiterate. that you've got to train yourself when you're executing this. You have to block out time. That there's no way around it. Whether you're rhythmic, bimodal, monastic, whatever, journalistic time. Journalistic becomes a little tricky because it's not really in your control. But when you're trying to execute, you've got to force yourself to block out time, which means your phone is on mute, nobody is bothering you, and if the world is going to bother you, wake up at 4 in the morning, right? I'm just hearing somebody walk past me here. So, if I'd done this in the morning, I won't have this distraction. Decide early on the outcome of the session. So if you're going to give it 90 minutes straight, then you're giving it 90 minutes straight, and it's going to be decided ahead of time what the result of the session is going to be. So there is no other outcome. This is the outcome, and I'm going to get it. Um, think about the 20% less rule. So whatever you're trying to do, think that you will have 20 less minutes, 20% less time to get it done. So if I'm, I don't know, maybe I'm targeting, um, let's say, 60 minutes. I'm working for 60 minutes. Really, I have around 50, something like that. So that's how I have to think about it. Which kind of gives me a sense of urgency and more focus. Also, make sure that you embrace boredom. You're not going to always be super excited about deep work at all times, and you just may not be motivated or inspired to just get your sleeves rolled up and get going. So understand this is part of the game. You're going to feel bored. You're going to feel monotonous at times, but you got to do what you got to do. Establish a zero tolerance policy, meaning like what just happened. While I was giving a presentation, somebody just walked in, and for me, it's like I'm not gonna get distracted in this stage. I'm gonna get this done. I will make sure that I hold myself accountable and responsible. That I don't, relax the rules on the work I'm gonna get done, the intensity I'm gonna deliver, what time I'm gonna get done. I blocked out a time. Like when you say let's say 9 a.m., it means 9 a.m. It does not mean 9:05. So you've got to have this. I guess maybe ruthlessness maybe is not the best word, but you got to sort of think like, if you're going to do this, you're going to do this, right? You're bringing everything, your mind, your focus to the table. Um, so be strict with yourself in that regards. Um, and a key part of execution is when you're outside of the DW zone, like you're in your deep work, you're not doing deep work. Well, you better rest well. You got to know to rest well so you can unwind and you can build that energy back so you can sustain this. Okay. So it's like a training. So you got to train yourself for every chunk of the time that you take out. I'm going to give you an example of what a sample day would look like. Here's what a sample day would look like. Okay. You wake up at 6, whatever you do, you walk, exercise, go to the restroom, do meditation, journaling, reading, and then you say, okay, fine. I'm going to do a deep work session, a 90-minute session. Session number 1 starts at 7:30, ends at 9 o'clock. At 9, you're going to have your breakfast. Now you can play with it. You can do whatever you want, but I'm just giving you an example. This session could be 30 minutes, could be 1 hour, could be 90 minutes. So I typically recommend choose deep work sessions between 30 and 90 minutes. Anything less or anything more kind of defeats the purpose a little bit. At least it doesn't work for me. So now you've had the breakfast, got a 1 hour break. Your mind is fresh. It's still early morning. The distractions are still not as much. You put in another deep work session, another 90 minutes. Now you're done it by 11:30. Now you can do miscellaneous stuff, low value activities. Maybe you go grab lunch. Maybe you go for a jog, workout, network, do administrative activities, whatever it takes. You come back refreshed. Um, you've after 3 hours, like so you've gotten your rest and you've separated yourself from the high intensity deep work. Now you're going for your last session for the day, and now you're doing another 90 minutes. Now based on this, you've got what is this? You've got 4.5 hours of deep work. Typically, the recommendation is to do maybe around 4 hours. So maybe you don't do a 90-minute session here. Maybe you do a 60-minute session. That's fine. But then what you see is happening is from 4 p.m. onwards, you can spend your life the way you want to, whatever it is. It's a lot of miscellaneous. There's a lot of, whatever else that is outside of deep work, you can dedicate to it. So if you look at 24 hours in the day and you're only giving it 4 hours a day, that's good enough. The other 20 hours, you can rest, you can sleep, you can meet people, you can watch movies, do whatever it takes. You can do yoga, exercise, you know, do what you will. So it is doable. It's practical. It's not impossible. But the problem is we we don't we haven't trained ourselves to build that attention stamina or that focus stamina to stay in these 90-minute stretches. And I'm guilty of that too. Like I said, I have to do a project, and I'm gonna absolutely apply these skills, and I'm gonna use this schedule to definitely make this happen, inshallah. So yeah, look, aim for 4 to 5 hours of deep work daily. Pick your best project, the most important project, the one that's going to change your life, hopefully, and go at it. Wrapping up the deep work summary, I would just say, um, look, I think it definitely creates exponential value because you connect the dots differently. You focus so deeply that your brain starts picking up on things, and it kind of overcomes this inertia, and you start absorbing knowledge like a sponge, which you won't be able to do even if you spend a month looking at something. But all of a sudden, if you focus 1.5 hours on something deeply, these things start revealing themselves to you. So I think it allows you to build skills fast, deploy skills fast, create value in the world, feel fulfilled, feel somebody who is, you know, is who's making himself or herself count. But the way you do it is, you can't just do it once in a while. I think you've got to have deep work as part of your lifestyle. So create a habit system where you have deep work chunks, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, have them in there, spread them throughout the day, target 4 to 5 hours of deep work. Um, you've got to rest, you've got to rest, because you understand that deep work is high intensity. So if your mind is obviously like, is really locked in, and it's fuming, right? So you've got to make sure that you allow it to relax, unwind, and then go back at it again. Um, you've got to be able to schedule your lazy time, your hard to reach time. People struggle with this a lot. So I always tell people, look, like for me, it's like in the afternoon between 4 and 6, hard to reach time, because I've got my own time schedule for things that I enjoy doing. And even though those activities are, let's say, hobbies, like I play tennis, I am very intense, and I focus a lot because I'm trying to improve certain parts of my game on a daily basis. So in a way, I'm also doing deep work there. When I come back, I'm very, I feel rewarded and I feel fulfilled. So it's very important to chalk out the time. And really, you've got to take control of your hours and make every second count. Because eventually what's happening is we're living these lives where we feel like we be controlled by somebody else. My boss says this, so I have to do this. My, husband or wife says this, and I have to. You've got to really take control of your life. The part of the reason why we are so sometimes unhappy and unfulfilled is we're kind of reacting to orders. But if you control your life, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're making progress, you will have plenty of time to do the things that fulfill you or satisfy you. So you think about it as such that you're not destined for 9 to 5 slavery. Let's not think like that. You do what you need to do, get the most out of it, move forward, take on bigger challenges, make the most out of life, make every second count, instead of being in this negative mindset, this like fixed mindset that I can't do anything about my life. It is what it is. But I think deep work would allow you to have those breakthroughs, break those ceilings that are holding you back, that make you feel like you don't control your hours, that make you feel like your second number one is the same as second number 1,000. There's no value being created anywhere. You're just kind of floating through life. No, you got to make everything count, and do it in a way that is creative, right? That creates or produces new things. Um, that's where the value is in life. And I like what Cal Newport says in the end. He says, to really create value or exceptional work, you've got to think like artists, but work like accountants. What he means by that is that artists have no boundaries, like nothing holds them. right? So they can be as vast, as broad in their thinking as possible. They can think outside the box. They can challenge anything. They can be abstract about stuff. But then when you work, you got to work methodically. You've got to be disciplined. You've got to kind of capture that creative energy in these windows, and you got to keep, like, it's like you got to keep training that combination of creativity and discipline, and you keep them together, and that's really going to create a lot of value for you. So, look, I hope that was helpful. I mean, I think this is a book that it's very common sense in many ways, but till we really don't apply these principles, I've tried doing deep work here and there. It's not easy, right? The first 30 minutes you're gonna do is you're gonna be tempted 20 different ways. Where's your phone? What's going on in the world? What is Twitter saying? You've got to really think differently, and you've got to go from a place of just feeling like life is passing you by very quickly to taking control of your hours, like I said, and making sure everything is meaningful and mindful, and make every second count. Hope that helps. Thanks a lot.